The prairie wind howled as a pale sun touched the dirt. A tiny girl, barefoot, sat in a rusted washtub by a burned-out cabin, her cheeks streaked with dust and dried tears. Around her neck, a tag, hand-carved in bone, "No one's daughter." Behind her, a buzzard circled. Then, a shadow fell across her. A man dismounted slowly, holding his hat against his chest. The wind blew sharp that day. Dry and mean. The kind that turned your mouth to cotton and your skin to bark. He rode slow, not in any rush. No one waited for him back home. Just a porch missing 3 boards, a rocking chair with a broken leg, and a cradle nailed shut with rusted wire. Nathan Briggs wasn't a young man anymore. Not old either. Just emptied, like a riverbed long after the flood. His horse snorted at a low branch, and he snapped out of his thoughts. That's when he heard it. Not a scream. Not a cry. Just a sound too soft for the wind to carry, but it did anyway. Like a hiccup soaked in fear. He stopped his horse. Pulled the reins back slow. Listened. There. Again. He turned toward the sound, narrowing his eyes across the scorched field. Burnt-out cabin. Fence torn down. Ash and bone. Looked like a place sorrow had already finished with. But the sound came again, a small cough, then nothing. He dismounted. Bootsteps slow and heavy on the cracked earth. His shadow reached the porch before he did. There she was, curled up in a rusted washtub, no bigger than a sack of grain. Dirt on her face. Knees to her chest. A piece of rope tied around her ankle like she was something not meant to run. She didn't speak. Didn't blink. Just stared at him like an animal unsure if he'd offer a hand or a bullet. He knelt. "Where's your people?" he asked softly. "Nothing." "Name?" Still nothing. She had a tag on a piece of string around her neck. Not paper, bone. Scratched by hand. Looked like it used to say something, but time and teeth had worn it down. Her lips moved. One word. Quiet. But it hit him hard. Navajo. Comanche. The word meant alone. Or sometimes, left behind. Nathan blinked. Looked down at his boots, then back at her. "Who left you here?" The girl didn't answer. Her bottom lip quivered once, but her eyes didn't cry. He saw then, the heel of her left foot was bruised. Rope burn on her wrist. A thin scar under her ear. She'd been through something. A lot of somethings. He stood. Looked around. No fresh tracks. No wagon prints. Just the remains of what used to be a house. A swing still hung crooked from a tree. The rope was frayed. The seat gone. Nathan turned away. Walked back toward his horse. He didn't rescue people. Never had. He wasn't a hero, or a father, or a man with anything to offer except silence. He placed his boot in the stirrup. Paused. He thought of the cradle again. The one he built before the miscarriages. The one he buried when the doctor said it was him, not her. "You'll never have children," he'd said. "Not even if you try another 20 years. And now here she was. A child no one wanted. A child someone threw away. He looked over his shoulder. She was still staring at him. Still didn't cry. Not once. But her hands had closed tighter around her knees. She was bracing. She thought he'd ride off and leave her behind, again. He didn't even realize his legs had moved. He walked back to her, knelt, and took out his canteen. He held it toward her. Slowly. She looked at it. Then at him. Didn't move. He set it down beside her gently. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said. "But I can't promise this road won't." Still nothing. He stood. "I'm going east," he added. "Ain't much there. Just dust and fences. But it's better than dying out here alone." She didn't follow. He took one step. 2, 3. Then came the sound that stopped him cold, a shuffle of feet. She was standing now. Wobbling like a fawn just born. clutching the bone tag around her neck. He turned. She walked to him. Didn't speak. Didn't look him in the eye. Just reached up, as if asking, not begging, to be lifted. He didn't say a word. Just reached down, gently, and swung her onto the horse. She sat behind the saddle, holding the blanket tight. He mounted, careful not to jostle her. For a while, they rode in silence. The only sounds were the wind and the distant creak of something forgotten. But just before sunset, as the shadows stretched long, he heard her voice again, barely a whisper. "Do you have a name?" He nodded. "Nathan." Pause. Then, "I used to have one too." He didn't ask what it was. They kept riding east, a man who'd lost his future and a child the world had thrown away. But something in the air felt different now. Not hope. Not yet. Just something less empty. The girl didn't sleep the first night. She lay curled up by the fire, eyes open, watching the flames dance like ghosts on the cabin wall. Nathan didn't speak to her. He didn't ask questions. He just watched her out the corner of his eye, the way you watch a horse that's been whipped too long, cautious, calm, careful. She clutched something in her hand beneath the blanket. He couldn't see it. But when she breathed in her sleep, shallow, twitchy, like she was listening for footsteps that weren't there, he heard her whisper a name. Tabe. It wasn't his. The next morning, she followed him quietly, her steps soft in the dirt, light like she wanted the earth to forget she was there. She didn't speak, but sometimes she'd stop, stare at the wind, or pick up a piece of rock and press it to her lips. Then drop it. Nathan watched. He didn't understand it yet, but she was remembering, not telling. She remembered a muddy river, shallow and warm, where her mother washed her hair with mint leaves. The scent of it still lingered in her bones. She used to hum a tune while doing it, the same melody the girl sometimes mumbled when she thought no one was listening. Back then, they lived in a roundhouse with deer hides stretched across the door and corn drying from the ceiling. The girl would help grind it down while her mother told stories. Not in full tales, just fragments. Spirits who rode in storms. Wolves who wept for widows. The girl used to laugh when the wind whistled through the gaps in the wall. "The ghosts are hungry again," her mother would say. "Give them a crumb." She always did. Then the sky turned red one night. Not from fire. From men. The men who came were not Comanche. They were not Apache either. Just men with hats too big and mouths that chewed even when they weren't eating. One of them pointed at her mother. Another held up a paper. She didn't know what it meant. Just that after they left, her mother cried into the dirt. Then she packed their things. They rode 3 days to a ranch. Her father waited there. Not by blood. Not by choice. A tall man with a cracked belt and a face that never bent. He made the girl stop speaking her mother's tongue. Called it filth. Called her mother foolish. But he liked her mother's cooking. Liked when she wore dresses instead of buckskin. He liked control. And when the fever came that winter and her mother stopped breathing, he didn't cry. He remarried quick. A white woman with sharp perfume and sharper hands. She didn't like the girl. Said she didn't smile right. Said she had bad blood. That was when the chores started. Then the silence. Then the selling. The girl had learned to read faces, not words. She knew when the rancher's eyes turned cold. She knew the way the new wife counted coins behind the curtain. One morning, after the mule kicked a fence post loose, he told her to pack a sack. "You'll stay with the man down by the salt road for a while," he said. She asked, "When will you come back for me?" He spit on the ground. "When you're worth the trouble." She never saw him again. The man by the salt road was worse. He didn't speak Comanche either. Called her half coyote. She was made to sleep in a shed. Fed once a day. She washed dishes, boots, horses. One day she dropped a bowl. He burned her hand. That's where the scar came from. Under her ear. Where the flames kissed her skin. Then one day she ran. Ran until her feet bled. slept under trees, drank rainwater from leaves, stole bread when she could. Eventually, she found the burnt-out cabin, once home to another Comanche family, maybe. Long gone now. Ash and broken walls. She thought maybe she'd die there. Maybe that was okay. But something made her stay alive. A bone flute she carried in her pocket, the last thing her mother gave her. "It won't protect you," her mother once said. "But it remembers you." So she played it each night, even when no sound came out. Even when she thought the ghosts had forgotten her name. That night, by the new fire, Nathan finally saw what she carried. The bone flute. Smooth, darkened by touch. The holes worn by years of trembling fingers. "You play?" he asked. She looked at him, then shook her head. "Not anymore." Later, as he chopped wood, she picked up a stick and drew something in the dirt. A circle, then a cradle, then a tree. He didn't ask. But his chest tightened. He'd seen that shape before, years ago. His wife had carved the same symbol above the door to their cabin. A Comanche birth sign. Hope for the unborn. The girl wiped the drawing away with her sleeve before he could say anything. He left her alone. When she finally fell asleep again, curled up against the saddle blanket, she whispered one more word into the dark. It wasn't Tabe this time. It was Mama. Nathan sat by the fire, staring into the flame. The girl's breath was even now, the kind that came only after a day of unburied memory. He looked at the sky. A shooting star cut across it like a blade. He thought of the cradle again. Still nailed shut. Still waiting under the porch. Still filled with nothing but dust. They didn't speak much after that. He didn't ask questions. She didn't offer answers. But each day, they walked side by side a little closer. Each night, their silhouettes rested nearer to each other by the fire. Nathan led the way east, past red rocks and broken fences, past fences tangled in old stories, past dry wells that hadn't held water in decades. The girl followed without complaint, holding on to the saddle strap when her legs got tired. She still didn't give him a name. So he gave her one in his mind, Ash. Because she was quiet like ash, pale like ash, survived fire like ash, and yet still warm. One evening, a thunderstorm rolled in low and fast. They found cover beneath a rock shelf just before the sky cracked open. Nathan built a fire with damp brush. It smoked more than it burned, but it was enough to keep the chill off. The girl sat wrapped in a horse blanket, arms tucked in tight, her bare toes poking out from under the edge. She watched the rain like it was telling her something. After a long silence, she said, "You're not afraid of me?" He shook his head. "Why would I be?" She looked down. "They say I bring misfortune." "Maybe misfortune just likes to follow good people," he said without thinking. She glanced at him, then back at the fire. That night, she handed him the bone flute. Didn't say anything. Just placed it in his palm and looked away. He turned it over in his hand, the edges worn smooth, the mouthpiece still carrying a trace of her warmth. He didn't know how to play. Didn't try. But he held onto it, like it was something sacred. On the third day, they came to a riverbed. Dry now, but once strong, a spine of water cutting through bone-dry country. She stopped, bent down and ran her fingers across the stones. Then looked up. "This place is familiar," she whispered. He didn't press. Just watched her as she followed the dry river a few steps, eyes scanning the edges of memory. Then, she turned to him. "This used to be safe." They camped near the ruins of a mission house that night. The wind howled through the broken bell tower. Coyotes sang in the far hills. Nathan slept light. But when he woke, she was already cooking something in a pot he didn't remember unpacking. Berries. Wild roots. She knew what was safe. He watched her stir. There was something in the way her hands moved. Calm, sure, like she belonged in the world again. "Where'd you learn that?" he asked. "My mama," she said. Pause. "She said the plants speak, if you're quiet enough." Later that night, by the crackling fire, she asked, "Did you ever want children?" He didn't answer right away. The stars were sharp above them, cold pinpricks in black velvet. "I did," he said finally. "Had a cradle. Made it myself. Oakwood. Took me weeks." She tilted her head. "Where is it now?" "Buried it." "Why?" "Because I had nothing to put in it." She was silent a moment, then leaned forward and poked the fire with a stick. "Maybe it's still waiting," she whispered. He looked at her, really looked, and saw something shift in her eyes. Not trust. Not yet. But maybe the start of it. In the morning, they passed a lone rider on the ridge. Nathan tensed, rested his hand on the revolver beneath his coat. The rider didn't stop, just tipped his hat and kept on. But the girl had gone quiet again. When they stopped to water the horse, he noticed her tracing circles in the dirt with her toe. The same shape she'd drawn before. The same cradle. That night, as they sat eating dried meat and biscuits, she said something soft. "My mother said Comanche girls don't cry in front of men." Nathan looked up. She wasn't crying, but her lips trembled like she was close. Then she added, "But I'm not a full Comanche." "Not to them." "To who?" he asked. She shrugged. "Anyone." He didn't say anything, just broke his biscuit in half and handed her the bigger piece. The next day, they rode in silence for hours. But when they stopped at a small creek, she knelt to drink and then looked back at him. "I want a horse." He blinked. "What for?" She straightened. "So I can ride beside you. Not behind." He felt something pull in his chest. Not pain. Not pride. Something heavier. She was asking to stand equal. He nodded. "We'll find one." She smiled. Barely. But it lit her whole face. That evening, before the fire, she hummed a tune he hadn't heard since the first night. "The same one her mother used to sing," she said. He closed his eyes. The melody wound around the fire like smoke, thin and trembling, but real. He didn't need to know the words. The feeling was enough. They were still strangers. Still scarred. Still wary. But now they had a direction, not just a road. And in the quiet moments between each step, something like belonging began to take root. Not deep yet. Not sure. But like a seed pushing up through frost. The road narrowed into canyon country. Dry rock. No shade. Echoes that didn't belong to either of them. Nathan kept the girl close, her new horse a small piebald mare they'd traded for 2 knives and a flask. She named it quietly, Okie, which meant quiet one. She didn't smile often, but when the mare followed her like a shadow, she grinned so wide it made Nathan look away. He wasn't ready for joy. Not yet. But it followed them anyway. For a while. Trouble started in a town called Dry Hollow. They stopped only to refill their canteens and buy salt. Nathan tied their horses to the post outside a general store while the girl watched a dog chase shadows in the alley. Inside, it felt too bright. Too many faces, too many eyes. He paid the clerk and turned to leave, but stopped cold when he saw the man at the door. Tall. Blue coat. Black hat. Scar down his left cheek. The man squinted at Nathan. Then at the girl through the window. "Where'd you pick her up?" the man asked casual. Nathan said nothing. The man pointed out the window. "That girl, she fits the description on a claim." Nathan's hand moved slightly toward his hip. "Someone paid money for her. Not just a little." The man's voice dropped. "She was part of a trade gone south. You got something doesn't belong to you." Nathan stared him down. "I didn't take her," he said. "I found her." The man smiled. "Same thing." They left the store fast. Didn't run, but didn't linger. By the time they were out of sight from town, Nathan's pulse still hadn't slowed. That night, he cleaned his gun. Slowly. Deliberately. The girl watched him. "What did he want?" she asked. He hesitated. "Trouble." She said nothing, just wrapped the blanket tighter. But when she lay down to sleep, she pulled her mare's reins close to her chest like a child holding a doll. The next morning, they found boot prints by the creek. Not theirs. Too big. Too fresh. Nathan crouched. "One man," he murmured. "Riding alone." The girl's eyes widened. "He's following us." Nathan nodded once. "Or watching." By noon, they found a tree branch cut clean, knife work, not wind. By dusk, a circle of rocks where a fire had been laid the night before. Too close. They rode harder. Nathan taught her how to reload, how to whistle low if she spotted something. He showed her how to check wind direction before making a fire. That night, neither of them slept. On the third day, they stopped to rest under a bluff. Nathan took out his rifle to clean the barrel. The girl sat nearby, skin dull with dust, eyes alert. "Will he try to take me back?" she asked softly. "Maybe," he said. She looked down. "If he does, you'll let him?" He looked at her then, really looked. The sun painted her cheekbones gold. Her lips were cracked but strong. There was something in her that hadn't been there before. Fire. "No," he said. Simple. Final. "No, I won't." That night, the danger arrived. Not in a gunshot. Not in a scream. But in a voice calling from the dark. "Rancher!" Nathan grabbed his rifle. Pulled the girl behind him. The voice came again. Come. Measured. "I don't want blood," it said. "Just the girl." "Not yours to take," Nathan called back. "You think she wants to ride forever with a man like you?" The voice sneered. "You ain't even her kind. You think she belongs to you now." The girl stepped forward. Nathan tried to stop her, but she pulled free. She shouted back, "I don't belong to anyone." Silence. Then the crack of a rifle shot, far to the left. A warning. They dropped to the ground. Nathan rolled her behind a log, returned fire once, aiming for sound. The man didn't shoot again. But they both knew he wasn't giving up. By morning, the man was gone. But his presence lingered like smoke. The girl's hands shook as she packed her saddlebag. Nathan didn't ask her to stop. Instead, he reached into his coat and handed her something. His second pistol. "It kicks," he said. "Don't fight it. Lean into it." She stared at the weapon. Held it like it might burn her. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. "Because no one helped you when it mattered." She nodded slowly, then tucked the gun under her belt. Later that day, they crossed a wide open field. Vulnerable. Exposed. Halfway across, a shadow moved on the ridge. The man again. Nathan cursed. Reined his horse around. "Go!" he shouted. They galloped hard. Gunfire echoed behind them. One shot whizzed past Nathan's ear. Another kicked up dust near the mare's hooves. Then, silence. No hit. No bodies. But now they knew this was war. That night, the girl didn't hum. Didn't draw in the dirt. Just stared into the fire. Nathan tried to speak. Failed. She broke the silence first. "When I was little, I used to pray someone would come take me away." She looked at him. "I didn't mean like this." He nodded. "I didn't mean to find you either." The fire cracked. She pulled the blanket higher and whispered, "But I'm glad you did." He didn't reply. But he slid the bone flute out of his pocket and placed it beside her bedroll. She looked at it. Then back at him. This time, she smiled. Not for the horse. Not for survival. But for something beginning to grow. They found shelter in a cave after the second gunshot. It wasn't deep, but the stone swallowed sound. The fire they built inside barely flickered against the walls. Just shadows. Just breath. The girl sat with her knees pulled up. Her arms wrapped around her legs like a cage made of bone. Nathan sat across from her, cleaning his knife by habit, not need. Neither spoke. Too much had been said without words already. She broke the silence first. That man, he knew my father. Nathan looked up slowly. She wasn't guessing. She was remembering. I saw him once. When I was smaller. That man, the one with the scar. He came to our ranch. Spoke to my father in whispers. My mother wouldn't go near him. Said his eyes were wrong. She looked up at the cave ceiling. They traded something. And when the man left, we had new saddles. A new gate. And I wasn't allowed outside anymore. Her voice didn't shake. It was the stillness that hurt more than any tremble. I think that's when I stopped being a daughter. Nathan clenched his jaw. The fire snapped behind them. The cave stayed silent. She watched him, her face unreadable. Then, softly, "Did you know my family?" The question came gentle, but it hit like thunder. Nathan froze. She saw it. "You did." He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away. "I knew your mother," he said at last. "How?" He took a long breath. "She was promised to me once. A long time ago. Before everything." The girl blinked. "But you're white." He nodded. "I was raised by a Comanche woman. After the war. I spoke the language. Took the name. Rode with them for 2 summers before I came back to the settlements. Your mother, she didn't care about blood. She cared about who remembered the old ways." The girl's eyes narrowed. "Then why didn't you come for us?" Nathan looked into the fire like it could burn the truth from him. "I tried," he whispered. "When I heard she married someone else, someone who beat her, I rode to that ranch. But by then, she had you. She told me to leave. Said if I stayed, it'd only bring more danger. She begged me not to fight." He paused. "She gave me something before I left." He reached into his coat pocket, took out a folded cloth, unwrapped it. Inside, a small wooden pendant. Faded red paint. A carved pattern in Comanche spiral, for return. She said to keep it. Said if anything ever happened, I'd know where to find her. The girl stared at the pendant like it might set her on fire. "Why didn't you come when she died?" Nathan's face fell. "I didn't know. No one told me." Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't blink them away. "My mother died alone. I was left with a man who broke things for sport. And you were out there, holding on to a trinket." He tried to speak. She cut him off. "You let it happen." She stood. "I thought you saved me because you cared." "I do." "No," she snapped. "You saved me because you were guilty." He flinched. The words weren't loud, but they hit like fists. "You knew my mother. Maybe even loved her. And when you saw me, half broken, half hers, you saw a second chance." "That's not true," he said, standing too. "Yes, it is." She took a step back. Her voice was breaking now, cracking along old scars. "You think I didn't notice the way you look at me? Like I'm some ghost of a future you lost? Some little songbird in a cage you get to keep because fate owed you one?" Nathan stepped toward her. "You're not a second chance," he said. "You're your own chance." She shook her head. "You lied. Not with words. But with your silence." He lowered his gaze. "I didn't know how to tell you. You should have told me the moment you recognized me. I wasn't sure until you said her name." The girl stared at him a long time, then turned her back. She walked toward the cave mouth and looked out into the moonlit scrubland. "Do you know what it feels like to not belong anywhere?" she asked. He didn't answer. To be too Comanche for the white folks, and too white for the Comanche? Still silence. "My father used to tell me I was born by accident. That I was meant to be a boy. That I ruined everything." Nathan took a step forward. "You didn't ruin anything." She turned. "No. Then why does every man who's touched my life leave me with less than I had before? Nathan's hands curled into fists. Not in anger, in shame. I can't undo what's been done, he said. But I can stand by you now. She gave him a long, hard look, then picked up the bone flute from beside her bedroll. Held it, then walked past him and sat by the fire. Didn't say a word. Just sat. Back to him. The fire burned low. The silence between them stretched wide, like a canyon with no bridge. Nathan sat across from her again, slowly. He didn't speak. He didn't move closer. He just placed the wooden pendant in the dirt between them, and left it there. The desert was cruel by morning. Dry wind peeled the skin, and every shadow felt like a threat. The girl rode ahead of Nathan now, no longer behind him, not beside. Just ahead. Not angry. Just distant. Like something had changed in her that couldn't be undone. Nathan didn't try to catch up. He knew some things don't heal fast. Some never do. They stopped before noon, near an old Comanche burial hill. Wind chimes made of bone still hung from the trees, the kind only the wind knew how to touch. She pointed toward the east. I want to keep riding. Nathan didn't ask where. I can take care of myself now, she said. I think I always could. He nodded, then gave her the last thing he hadn't yet. A letter. Crumpled. Stained. Unsent. She took it. Unfolded it slowly. Inside was a single line in scratchy handwriting. If I ever get the chance, I'll do right by her. Below it, a name. Her mother's. She looked at him. Said nothing. Then tucked the letter into her satchel. That night, the writer returned. This time, he didn't speak. He fired first. The shot cracked like thunder across the canyon wall. Missed by inches. The girl dove behind the wagon. Nathan returned fire, calm, measured. But he wasn't aiming to kill. Not yet. The scar-faced man stepped forward through the moonlight, rifle raised. His eyes gleamed with something Nathan had seen in too many men, certainty. The kind that didn't shake until the ground was already blood-soaked. She's mine, the man shouted. Paid for. Nathan stood between them. Rifle down. Empty hands raised. No one owns her. The man laughed. You think she'll stay with you when she finds out what you really are? You were too coward to fight for her mother. You'll run again. Nathan didn't flinch. I ran once, he said. Not again. The man lifted his gun. That's when the girl stepped out. Not from behind Nathan, but from the side. She had the pistol he gave her. Hands steady. Feet firm. I belong to myself, she said. The man smiled, as if humoring a child. Is that so? She nodded. And if you take one step closer, I'll prove it. Silence. Then, the man lowered his weapon. But only for a second. He moved too fast. Nathan saw it first. He didn't think. He stepped in front of her. The gunshot echoed through the ravine. Nathan dropped to his knees. Then fell forward. The girl screamed, a raw, animal sound that broke the night in two. She fired. Once. Twice. The man stumbled back. Dropped. Didn't get up. She crawled to Nathan's side, hands shaking. Blood soaked through his coat. He looked up at her, breath shallow. You're okay, he rasped. She nodded, tears falling. I'm sorry, he whispered. For what? For not coming sooner. She held his hand. You came when I needed you, she said. That's enough. The sun hadn't risen yet. But the first light was breaking the edge of the canyon when she buried him under the burial hill, just above the old wind chimes. No cross. Just a carved wooden flute laid on top. And a coin placed gently on the stone, the one she used to wear around her neck. She rode alone for 3 days. Didn't speak. Didn't cry again. She rode to a place her mother once mentioned, a quiet ridge above the plains, where the grass bent like water and no one shouted names that didn't belong to her. There, she built something. Not a house. Not a grave. But a small circle of stones, and a cradle carved from pine. She didn't bury the cradle. She placed it in the open. Let the wind touch it. Let the sky see it. She never called him father. But sometimes, when the wind blew just right, she hummed the song he used to listen to by firelight. And when she looked at her hands, scarred and steady, she remembered the man who gave her nothing but silence, and taught her what it meant to stay.